friends, happy Halloween! Despite being new to horror movies and have only seen the first 4 Alien movies, I've always been really interested in Friday the 13th. I honestly don't know why I waited so long to check out these movies. And honestly, I'm glad I did check them out. Out of all 8 of the movies that I'm covering in this video, I'm honestly kinda surprised that only one of them turned out bad. Yeah, I did say that I am covering 8 of these movies. I won't be covering these films since I simply do not have HBO Max. I'm covering the main 8 that you can find on Paramount Plus. And this is all my opinion. Enough talk, let's get to the ranking from worst to best. Now, what is the worst Friday the 13th movie? Part 6, easily. I hate this movie so much.
Somehow,
Jason.
This movie tries so hard to be a self-aware comedy, but it is not funny at all. There's a woman in the beginning of this movie who's like, oh, I've seen enough horror movies to know that a guy in a mask is not nice. Get it? Cause we're watching a horror movie with a guy in a mask. Isn't that hilarious? This is basically just the same as that one joke from the god-awful Home Alone reboot.
This is garbage. I don't know why they're always trying to remake the classics. Never as good as the originals.
With the exception of Tommy, every character in this movie sucks. They're either always super boring, obnoxious, or completely stupid. The acting and writing suck. This entire movie sucks, I'm sorry. There are some decent kills, that's really about it. I would much rather watch Wish than this movie.
Watch out, world, here I am!
The fact that part 4 is called the final chapter is now made completely pointless because of part 5. But was part 5 even a good movie to make up for it? Nah, not really. Despite being the second worst on the list, part 5 is honestly just kinda okay. My main problem with this movie though is the characters. None of them are really all that compelling, except for Tommy, who I feel like his art could have been handled better. Besides Tommy and this little kid Reggie, none of the characters are really all that interesting. They're just kinda irritating, honestly. It was a pretty interesting move to bring Tommy back from the previous film and show what happened to him years later, but I kinda wish this was more developed. There are 2 characters that accidentally remind him of Jason and he attacks them both, I guess. And in the climax, Tommy manages to defeat Jason. And then he ends up at the hospital and is holding Jason's mask, and honestly that's all they really do with him. The rest of the movie is just kind of boring and has a lot of filler. This is the exact point in the franchise in which it starts to feel bland and monotonous. And as a result, it just kind of makes the last few movies feel really samey and kind of hard to get through, especially 6 and 8. Overall, this movie is just kind of mid and I wouldn't really recommend it. The kills are pretty solid, I guess.
It's not always about the money, Spider-Man. It's about the mitts, baby. Love them.
The concept of Jason going to New York City is honestly kind of an interesting one, even if a bit goofy, but this movie is just so uninteresting. It was so hard to get through. It's not a bad movie, it's just okay, but it's so boring. The characters and the plot are boring, the writing is boring, etc, etc. And oh my god, I hated this one girl in the red shirt, not the main character though. She was just so annoying. I know she was probably written to be charmless and annoying, but purposefully irritating is still irritating. The rest of the characters are fine, the kills in this movie are fine, this entire movie is just fine. Also, why does Jason randomly appear in places as a kid? It's never really explained at all. I get that he drowned in a lake in the first movie, but it's never explained why this kid version shows up here. Not terrible, but not impressive.
Super Mario 3D World!
Part 3 ain't half bad. It's actually pretty good. Yes, there's a lot of reused footage, especially from the climax from the previous movie. Yes, the 3D opening credits really didn't age well and you can't even view them on Paramount Plus, but those are my only real major problems with it. I actually had a ton of fun with this movie. The kills are pretty good, I really like the characters in this one. The 3D opening credits are very ambitious despite being super dated nowadays. This is just a good movie that I might have to rewatch sometime. It's not great, but it's still a pretty fun movie.
At least I'm safe inside my mind.
Part 7, The New Blood, just started off as kind of mid, but as it progressed, it's actually pretty good. The entire premise with this telekinetic girl is kinda weird at first, but actually it kinda works for me. It was actually pretty cool to see her use her abilities against Jason. It does kinda come off like the writers are struggling to come up with new ideas, but I will say that the way she uses her powers against Jason are pretty creative. She's definitely smarter than the majority of the characters in parts 5 and 6. The characters are solid, the kills are pretty great. The wither design for Jason is amazing, I absolutely love it. Yeah, the first act feels really slow and boring, but honestly, the rest of the movie is really good. I would definitely recommend it. Also, Kitty.
It's Jason.
Despite part 2 being a pretty good movie, I feel like it is a major step down from the first. The characters are less memorable, the kills have less gore and aren't really as good, though still pretty good. Though, honestly, I don't really have any major complaints with this movie. It's just a pretty fun movie. And it is pretty cool seeing Jason be the main threat this time. Pretty good movie, would probably rank at least one movie higher if it wasn't for the poor doggo. Also, Kitty.
It's the final
Chapter. Part 4 is great, I love it. Despite the relatively slow start, I feel like this one definitely has the fastest pacing in the entire franchise. Yes, the pacing is really fast, but that means they can cut the crap and keep going with the story. I think that's one of the thousands of reasons why I love the Mario movie. And I think the reason why this movie is so fast paced is because it actually focuses on 2 households instead of 1, but that's perfectly okay because that means the story is always on the move. It's just pretty interesting getting to see these 2 households, and I really like the characters in this one. It's a nice change of pace from the other 3. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's that many characters compared to the first 3, but that's perfectly fine with me. That means they all get more focus and they actually have a lot more screen time. And the characters are so charming too. I especially love the dead joke. And I really love the rivalry between those 2 brothers. It's not only realistic that these brothers would act the way they do towards each other, but it's also really funny. The movie at the number 1 slot probably has much better characters and a story, but I don't know, I just really love this one. And unlike part 2, the doggo actually survives in this one. Yippee! If you haven't, go watch this one, it's pretty great. It's not really amazing, but the movie at the top of the list is... I love the first movie a ton. This one definitely has the best kills in the franchise, peaking a bit early, I know. I love how until the ending, the killer is shown completely off screen. And the practical effects are fantastic. They have aged so well, and they really remind me of the first Alien movie. They are that good. And let's go back to the murderer being off screen for a sec, okay? It adds such an amazing amount of mystery to the character, and it's pretty neat seeing some of the kills from the killer's perspective. Alice's actress deserves a medal. Her acting is amazing. She goes to town with her acting, especially with her screams, which feel so genuine. I don't really have a whole ton to say. This movie was absolutely amazing. I do kind of have to take points off though because of the snake controversy and the fact that this one character dresses up as a stereotype. But this is without a doubt a 9 out of 10 movie that you should totally check out, especially if you're into horror movies. I can totally see why this movie took off because I had an absolute blast with it from start to finish. Please watch this movie if you haven't already. And that's my ranking. While making this video, I did hear that part 6 was one of the fan favorites, but I just personally did not like it, so I'm sorry for putting it so low. Until part 5, I actually had a lot of fun watching these movies for the first time. And despite my ranking probably being a lot different from the general consensus, I hope you enjoyed the video anyway, and if you want me to cover more horror movies, please let me know. And happy Halloween, friends.
Well, I think you're doing a great job, Mrs. Griffin, but my boss would kill me.
How's everything going out here?
Fine, Mr. Voorhees.
Good, because if you screw up, I'll kill you.